A man once said to Ḥudhayfah, may Allah be pleased with him, if I had met the Prophet ﷺ, I would have fought beside him and I would have proven myself. Ḥudhayfah looked at him and said, you think you would? Let me tell you what we lived. And then he told the story of the night of al-Ahzāb. He said, we were with the Prophet ﷺ on the night of al-Ahzāb. Freezing wind, biting cold. It was so cold, freezing cold, that each of the companions, and we all know how strong, physically strong they were, dug a pit into the ground and buried himself to get some warmth. And then Ḥudhayfah continues, he said, the Prophet ﷺ said, is there a man who will bring me news of the enemy, and Allah will place him with me on the day of judgment? And we all can see how virtuous this dua is. I mean, he's going to be with the Prophet ﷺ on the day of judgment. But what happened is, no one moved. The Prophet ﷺ said it for the second time. He's going to be with me on the day of judgment. But no one moved. And we're talking about Abu Bakr, we're talking about Umar, we're talking about the best of humanity at that time, of all time actually. So no one moved. The Prophet ﷺ said it for the third time and still no one moved, which gives you a very clear indication of how severe the circumstances were at that time. And what is even more interesting than no one moving is that the Prophet ﷺ never blamed them for not moving. He never rebuked any of them for not moving, which shows that the Prophet ﷺ understood how difficult the situation was, and also shows a very beautiful aspect in our deen, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala لا يكلف نفسا إلا وسعها. Allah would never overburden a soul with more than it can carry. So back to the story. The Prophet ﷺ said, stand up, Ḥudhayfah. Ḥudhayfah said, when he called me by name, I had no choice. The Prophet ﷺ said, go, bring me news of the enemy and do not alarm them. Then he made dua for Ḥudhayfah. Ḥudhayfah said, as I left him, it felt as if I was walking into a warm bath. The cold vanished. Then he said, I reached them. Abu Sufyan was there, warming his back by the fire. I placed an arrow on my bow. I could have ended it. But then I remembered the words of the Prophet ﷺ, do not alarm them. So I lowered my bow and I left. I walked back as if I was still wrapped in warmth. When I told the Prophet ﷺ what I have seen, the cold returned. So he wrapped me in part of the cloak he was praying in, and I slept until morning. When I woke, he smiled and said, get up, O sleeper. One of the greatest lessons from this night: do not wish for the trials. Do not wish to be tested. Do not romanticize hardship. Ask Allah for safety. Ask Him for well-being. And the Prophet ﷺ has said, سَلُوا اللَّهَ الْعَافِيَةَ وَلَا تَتَمَنَّوْا لِقَاءَ الْعَدُوِّ. Ask Allah for safety and well-being, and do not wish to meet the enemy.